عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How are you, my dear students? Today, our lesson is about conditionals type 0 and 1. So, give me your attention. Let's start. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to, number 1, identify conditional structure with if, when, and will, types 0 and 1. Number 2, use the words if, when, and will, types 0 and 1 to indicate the conditional tense. So we have questions here. In our lesson, we are going to answer the following questions. Number 1, when do we use conditional type 0 and 1? Number 2, how do we form conditional sentences using type 0 and 1? Number 3, how do we form negative type 1 statements? Let's start with the first question. According to the 0 conditional, I have an example here. You will concentrate with me to understand. Example number 1. If you heat water, it boils. In this sentence, I'm talking about a real situation. In this sentence also, I have something called if clause, if you heat water, and I have something called many clause, it boils. Look at the verbs here in the if clause and in the many clause. If you concentrate, you will decide that the verb here, heat, is simple present. And in the many clause, boils, what tense is this? It is also simple present. So, we can make 0 conditional using this rule. If plus present simple in the if clause, comma, subject plus present simple in the many clause. So, question number 1. When do we use 0 conditional? We use it to talk about real condition. So, we use 0 conditional to describe what happens in general. How is that? There's an example here. If water reaches 100 degrees, it boils. It's a scientific fact. It's a general fact. Number 2, when we talk about habits, rules, instructions, like what? If you press the right button, the machine starts working. This is an instruction for you. Number 2, if you eat a lot, you put on weight. This is a rule for all of us, almost all of us. Number 3, if I listen to loud music, I always have a headache. This is a habit. I'm talking about personal habit. A note for you. Instead of if in those sentences, you can use when and the meaning will stay the same. This is all about conditional type 0. Now, let's move to conditional type 1. According to this conditional, I'm talking about possible condition. If this happens, something else will happen. So, I have a rule for you. If clause and the many clause. In the if clause, we are talking about the condition itself, and the many clause is the result for this condition. In the if clause, I will use if plus simple present verb. In the many clause, I will use simple future verb with the subject. Let me remind you that we can change the order of the if clause using the many clause at the beginning or the if clause at the beginning, and the meaning will stay the same. The difference is in the punctuation marks. If you start with the if clause, you will use comma in the middle. If you start with the many clause, you will not use it. I have an example here. If it rains, you will get wet. Since I started with the if clause, I use comma in the middle. But if I started with the many clause, like you will get wet if it rains, I didn't use commas here. So the function of conditional type 1. The function of conditional type 1 is talking about possible things, real things, warning, predictions, and plans. Pay attention that you can use other modal verb rather than will, like can, like shall, might. Instead of will, using conditional type 1. Now, let's talk about the negative form of first conditional. You can either negate the if clause or the main clause. If we want to negate the if clause, I will use if plus don't or doesn't, plus infinitive form of the verb, subject plus will plus infinitive form of the verb in the main clause. If I want to negate the main clause, I will follow this rule. If plus present simple, comma, subject plus will not plus infinitive form of the verb. I have examples here. Please concentrate. If you walk slowly, you won't catch the bus. Here, I negate the main clause. Here, sentence number 2, if you don't hurry, you will miss the bus. Here, I negate the if clause. Now, let's practice using conditional type 1. Number 1, you are a teacher and you want to warn your students that they have a homework to do tomorrow. Otherwise, they will have a trouble. What will I write? I will use if clause and main clause. If you don't do your homework, you will be in trouble. Number 2, you are talking with your friend and you want to warn him not to be late to work for work tomorrow. So, what will you say? Think about it and let me know. Number 3, you are a politician giving a speech and you promise to do many different changes if people vote to you. What will you say? Use conditional type 1 and let me know your answers. This is all about conditionals type 0 and 1. Now you have a task to do. Question number 1. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct tenses. Sentence number 1. If I see him, I give him a lift. Number 2. The table will break if you sit on it. Number 3. If he eat all that, he will be ill. Number 4. If I find your passport, I telephone you. Number 5. The police arrest him if they catch him. Number 6. If he read in bad light, he will ruin his eyes. Number 7. Someone steal your car if you leave it unlocked. Number 8. What will happen if my parachute not open? Number 9. If he wash my car, I will give him $10. Number 10. If she need a radio, she can borrow mine. Number 11. If you not go away, I will call the police. Number 12. I will be very angry if he make any more mistakes. Number 13. If he be late, we will go without him. This is all for today. Remember, if you change, everything will change around you. So work hard. تذكروا أعزائي، يمكنكم مشاهدة هذا الموقف التعليمي أكثر من مرة باستخدام الرابط أدناه. إلى اللقاء.